Welcome back everybody to the second game of this best of 3 series. The first game in general for this tournament. It is the GameShow Invitational. 16 teams, GSL format, 4 groups each, 2 teams advance from each group. And this is Next.kz going up against Scary Faces. Game number 2 after somewhat of a delay between the games, but Scary Faces, they won game number 1, I'd have to say rather easily, but this being a best of 3, hopefully Next.kz can show something to us, just come back. Maybe start with something different in the draft, but in general, we're HeflaTV, I'm Couchor, I'm gonna be joined by GrandisV as well. Man, how you doing?
I'm doing all right, and yeah, as you said, in game number 1, it looked like a really solid game from Scary Faces. I kind of like Next.kz's draft, in all honesty, but Scary Faces' execution just seemed to be a notch above. This time around, however, we're going to start things off with an Undying for Next.kz, and well, it was banned out first stage in the previous game, so maybe Next.kz have something up their sleeve. As far as this patch is concerned, I'm pretty new to it, and most of the teams are too, but it really seems that early aggression is the way to go, and look no further than Undying.
Yeah, Undying is a hero that I haven't seen played as much, but I've seen it being banned out in the first phase so very often. So maybe as far as like what to properly expect from him in game performance wise, a little bit in the dark for me as well still, but for Scary Faces, if they want to, Visage is still in the open. Gyrocopter as well. They did start with a Gyrocopter. Can't even remember what the second one was in the first game in all honesty, but just so many strong heroes, and we'll see, man. Scary Faces, they were a solid team before the patch, and so far seem solid here as well, but Gyrocopter is the first pick.
Yeah, no matter how they play this gyro, it's going to offer some nice utility for the team, and the fact that it kills off the zombies instantly from the Undying, and that's very unique. There aren't very many heroes that can do that so reliably, and it takes away a lot of Undying's effectiveness. It's pretty interesting to see Next.kz go into this Undying. It's also very fun to see some of my favorite heroes, in all honesty, that have been out of favor for the longest times, now being first pick and first banned. Queen of Pain is going to follow up the Gyrocopter for Scary Faces. No big surprises there. Queen of Pain was in the last patch and still is a powerhouse.
Indeed, she is. I think I'm pretty sure at least that I saw some stats about Queen of Pain being like 100% picked or banned at the moment in 6.84, and it's really not all that surprising. But if you're Next.kz now, you already have the Undying. You see the Gyrocopter and Queen of Pain. Well, never mind the answer. They go for the Leshrac, but I do believe Leshrac was banned out by maybe Next.kz themselves. If not, Scary Faces took it out in the first phase last time.
These were the first two bans of one of the teams. I can't remember exactly which. I'm pretty sure it was Next.
Yeah, so for the Leshrac, are the changes to Leshrac really that strong, you think?
One of the biggest things about Lishrak in this current patch is that he's able to scale a lot harder with the addition of Octarine Core and the other extra items, although I'm not sure if it's necessarily the best idea to pick him up so early. I like this aggressive style that Next.kz are drafting towards.
It's always nice. I mean, last game, of course, they also went for a rather aggressive style, but unable to really pull it off. But, of course, one huge thing that did hinder them was that Broodmother, because it is so hard to really deal with the Broodmother. Usually, in the aggressive style, you rely on also getting a couple of kills to get the snowball going, but Broodmother is just so elusive. So, Next.kz just remove it straight out, don't want to deal with that one. That in itself should make it a little bit easier. But, Scary Faces? Ban out the Dragon Knight, also a hero that is probably going to be rather popular at the moment.
Yeah, very good at pushing and a much more potent laner at the moment, although I think Dragon Knight maybe should be seeing a little bit less play than he's being noticed for now. He's still a very reasonable pick. We're going to see an Earthshaker banned out by Next.kz. I can hope beyond hopes that we see a Meepo, but the chances of that are unlikely. Earthshaker's just a good support and worth the ban.
It's a little bit sad, but I can't even remember when was the last time I saw a Meepo game. So yeah, it's something that would be a little bit refreshing once more. And it may even happen, who knows, because if you're Next.kz, for example, just bringing out something crazy, something completely unexpected for Scary Faces may be the way to go. Because they lose this one, well, they're not completely out of the tournament yet, because first of all, it's a group stage, but they're just going to drop down to a loser's match and still have one more chance to advance here. But well, we'll see. Maybe they're going to whip it out. As for Scary Faces, they need some supports. Last time running with their Rubik. This time around, stealing Splitter, for example, is a pretty nice ability.
Oh yeah, and getting your hands on Tombstone, Decay, there's a lot of good tools in the kit of Next.kz already, and Rubik's hardly ever going to be a bad choice per se. I really don't have any idea how these lanes are going to shake down. I'd expect Next.kz to run both of these heroes as cores, and they do have that flexibility, however, so there's no real lane assignments that are stuck. They're going to pick up a Bane for Scary Faces. Pretty interesting. At the moment, the setup for the Nightmare is pretty limited, but Fiend's Grip is always going to be a really useful tool, and a lot of teams do very much favor this Bane. The addition of removing vision from the Nightmare target is very interesting in its applications inside games. It's very scary getting caught out alone if you're like a support going for wards or any hero really, and then having no vision of what the enemy team is doing.
Yeah, it's definitely true enough. So, Bane, I mean, do you think even with the changes, does it suddenly make Bane such a better hero? Or, I mean, some teams even used Bane beforehand as well, but just not that much. But is it that strong, or would you favor some other supports still that are still in the pool, for example?
Personally, I would favor a different support for Scary Faces, but I think they're one of the teams that just likes picking up the Bane, and liked picking up the Bane in previous patches. He's a very good hero at single target lockdown, although I'm not sure if that's necessarily what Scary Faces needed right now. Maybe they'll pick up something later on that'll make this Bane make a little bit more sense. Maybe somebody that really benefits from having that setup from Nightmare.
Yeah, it might be. It would be nice to see that Bane Mirana combination. Just going back a little bit in time, it is really hard to miss that arrow, to be honest. You can only miss it when there's like another hero to kind of drain away the Nightmare from the target. But Next.kz, Rubik was the pick for them, so far they have like a reasonable amount of lockdown with telekinesis into Split Earth. If they can combo it, most times you don't move the telekinesis target, you just have him drop down at the same position you lifted him up in. Sometimes though, you just drag him back or just throw him forward or something and the Split Earth misses, so hopefully they're gonna have that coordination on point. But the one thing that Next.kz have at the moment is that most of their heroes are rather squishy. Undying can get tanky if he gets enough just decay stacks on him, but I'm a little bit worried for just Rubik and Leshrac up against Queen of Pain and Gyrocopter.
Yeah, they're very reliant on getting off to a good start to get Lesh's items in order to tank up, and Rubik hit the levels into Nullfield as well. And before that, Next.kz are, as you said, very susceptible to just dying very easily. Leshrac and Rubik are wet paper, and well, this hero is anything but. It's going to be an Ogre Magi for Scary Faces, and although I don't think he combos the best with Bane, as he doesn't necessarily need the Nightmare to get kills, it's still going to be a very potent killing combination. Ogre Magi, you get the Fire Blast, you get the Ignite on the table, and combined with Bane's Brain Sap, that's a lot of damage that they can use to roam very early on, especially if it's something like a Leshrac mid, a very susceptible target to getting ganked.
Yeah, with that Bloodlust also, it's gonna just help out the Gyrocopter, deal, so to say, a little bit more burst damage in a sense, just because you're gonna get those flak cannons out a little bit faster due to the extra attack speed. It's maybe not like massive amounts of burst damage, but the AoE damage going out to all the heroes if they're close enough is gonna be rather massive later on in the game. But wow, Next.kz going for, well, something tanky plus a really heavy hitter as well, the Sven, if it is at least in the core role, which I really expect it to be in.
Again, as we kind of saw in Next.kz's first draft, this lineup is very reliant on getting off to a good start. If they do, their game can be so explosive. If you get a Leshrac with an early amount of farm, I'm not exactly sure what you're going to build this patch necessarily as your first major item on Leshrac. Maybe you still just go back for that Bloodstone. And then you get a Sven with a Blink, BKB, something along those lines, and Dying tanks up with maybe Arcane's Mech. They have a lot of tools that they can use to go aggressive, and a lot of setup for Leshrac's damage, and a lot of ways to keep Scary Faces stuck in a single place. Their zone control, is very impressive, although they might have difficulty locking down a Queen of Pain if Rubik's not there with the telekinesis to open everything up. Even so, I think Next.kz have a lot of very interesting ideas going on in their draft, and Scary Faces, although their heroes are very good, the synergies between them aren't as clear. At the moment, Ogre Magi, Bane, Queen of Pain, and Gyrocopter, although very good in their own right, are kind of just mushed together.
It's certainly true, but of course Scary Faces, at least from like coming into this game and seeing the first game as well, it's like, even if they have a so-called slightly more disoriented draft, just relying on their execution may just still pull them through quite easily here. It's because they're definitely solid teamwork is there, just the individual skill on top of that. But last ban, Temper Assassin taken out by Scary Faces. Next.kz banning out a Viper of all heroes, but then again, if there's no IO to partner up with the Sven, just a Viper definitely could have been there to kite him around endlessly almost. So taking that one out, but Scary Faces, they do lack, well, an offlaner. They could also send the Queen of Pain offlane, but probably wouldn't be the greatest in that lane.
No, a very scary lane to go up against as an offlane Queen of Pain. Blink would by no means be a reliable way to escape because of the raw amount of lockdown that Next.kz are bringing to the table. The IO you were somewhat alluding to would not be a bad pick at all for Next.kz.
It is banned though.
Oh yeah, that's right. It was banned out in the first stage. Excuse me.
I for a second also thought like, oh, Next.kz are definitely gonna go for an IO. I was like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, it looks like there is actually going to be Queen of Pain in the offlane. However, Scary Faces are going to last pick up the Storm Spirit.
Could it be once again an aggressive dry lane though, with like Bane, Ogre, and Gyro? There is the like Nightmare into Homing Missile, of course. Next.kz, if they have a range support, it's rather easy to just take that Nightmare away in a safe location. But even then, an aggressive tri lane maybe wouldn't be super horrible. But it depends on really what Next.kz will go as their last one.
Yeah, the amount of damage that Scary Faces have is very threatening. If they can isolate any single one of the heroes coming up from Next.kz, they probably will die. Especially once level 3 or so comes out, but just the raw power of Ignite with maybe an Orb of Venom Slow thrown in there from the Ogre Magi and the Rocket Barrage from Gyrocopter is already very threatening. Not to say Next.kz's tri lane is bad by any means, and I think it might even be a little bit better as long as they get their positioning down. It really depends on if they get the Undying into the tri lane or not. If they do, then hands down, Next.kz win it, and I think in that sense, Scary Faces, unless they feel that Next.kz themselves are going to go aggressive, they probably won't.
It's certainly true enough that Undying, he just loves to be in aggressive not aggressive tri lanes, but just tri lane versus tri lane situations. Same with like a Visage, for example, which, funny enough, is also still in the pool if Next.kz would like to go for it. Maybe not the greatest hero to just pick up as the last one for their current lineup, but it is still something to consider. But do you think they need more lockdown of some sort, or do they have enough already?
I think they have plenty of lockdown. At the moment, Next.kz might run into an issue where they don't really have the greatest of initiations, especially until Sven gets a Blink Dagger. But for the most part, their heroes, their first 4 heroes, are fairly self-contained. But with the raw amount of mobility on Scary Faces, I think they still could afford to get a little bit more stunning action going on in there. I have no idea what lane they're going to be missing, as these heroes are very flexible in their lane assignments. Potentially something for mid, but I think that's where Lustrak is going to end up dropping.
Did the timer just stop for you as well? Did they pause the draft or something?
It is indeed paused. We have mass disconnects.
Okay then. Is it only... Yeah, it's only the Next.kz side, so Scary Faces are completely fine, whereas the Kazakh internet is just a... It's not a treat, let's just put it like that. But it does give Next.kz an just extra couple of minutes maybe even to think about this last pick. I do think they might go for the puck once again. Last game, mid played a pretty nice just game on the puck, got a rather early Blink Dagger as well. And it could fit also just the extra source of maybe not lockdown, so to say, but just the silence against Queen of Pain and Storm Spirit. Maybe the one thing you need to just kill them.
That would be really nice, as it would free up the Rubik and less to roam, but then again, leaving the Sven alone versus the Queen of Pain is pretty poor for the Sven. He can get very easily dominated inside that lane. His damage, although admirable, isn't going to be enough to secure kills on the Queen of Pain, and for the most part, she's going to be controlling the lane and controlling the Sven very effectively. Yeah, I honestly have no clue what Next.kz are going to round out their draft with. This isn't a meta that I'm necessarily comfortable with yet. And not to say that's a bad thing, I quite enjoy seeing new heroes.
It's always nice. I mean, first of all, since it is this early still into the batch, we're probably gonna keep on seeing those new heroes pop up every now and then. And with that, slowly but surely the meta is kind of gonna get itself just into place there. Or, well, probably if it's like TI time, but lots of teams will just come with pocket strats or whatnot. But until then, it's probably gonna stabilize by the like maybe start of June already or something like that. Do we have any reconnects at all? No, don't think so. Oh,
Yeah, it looks like we're just stuck.
fun times. This is like the worst place to be stuck in as well. Like the draft, we're not even in the game yet. So
Yeah.
can't even look at cosmetics or anything. I was like, ugh, please.
Well, the stream has caught up to the delay. So, for the very least, we've been paused for 2 minutes as we wait for Next.kz to get their internet sorted, which is very unfortunate. For the most part, Scaryface's lanes are very self-sufficient, even the Queen of Pain to a lesser extent, and I think they should be all right as long as they don't get absolutely demolished. All of these heroes have a very specific time, especially level-wise, when they just get turned on and can very easily go for kills. Queen of Pain, like level 7 to 8. Storm Spirit, a pretty similar mark, although maybe a tad bit earlier. It's pretty threatening. Next.kz, however, their early aggression is really where they can get you, so I would love to see them be able to get an aggressive trialing, maybe even with the Undying as the farming core in that, and then roam off of that later.
So if you do run that aggressive try with the Undying, is it gonna be Rubik plus Sven supporting it, or?
I would expect Rubik Lesh is your supporting duo if Next.kz pick up another core.
Invoker.
Well, they do pick up the Invoker here, so that is almost certainly
Did they
gonna
pick
be...
that up or random it?
Oh no, it was a pick they reconnected a little while
excellent.
ago. I think at least 4 of them have reconnected now.
Nice.
Oh, it's 5 even.
Okay, very good, very good. So we're not going to be going into a pause straight up. This is going to be a pretty interesting last pick for Next.kz, but with the raw amount of lockdown that they already had, setting up for Sunstrikes can be very threatening. And the killing potential of Next.kz is pretty much through the roof. Yeah, I just want to know how these lanes shake down. I'd expect Sven is the safe lane farmer, Invoker mid, and dying in the off lane, but there is a certain amount of flexibility, and I have no idea if he played that last game, but Next.kz's player that's tagged as mid is currently playing on the Lash.
Well, it may happen. It's a reasonable just lane to be in as a Leshrac as well, to be honest. Lightning Storm, it's quite easy to just get last hits with it, plus harass the enemy mid laner at the same time. But we do have a pause now, but not on the Next.kz side. It is Scaryface's losing a player instead. Shadowware being disconnected, and well, that's just classic Dota.
Alrighty then, I suppose we can just introduce our teams, and well, Scary Faces are the ones to have lost a player, but I'll go ahead and introduce everybody else. We have Eknar playing on the Ogre Magi, Ramsey666 on the Gyrocopter, Quista going to be playing on the Queen of Pain, Tilted on the Storm Spirit, and last but not least, Shadowy going to be playing on the Bane.
As for the dark side, we will have Next.kz, Z96 Han playing the Invoker, leaving David K on the Rubik, Topor on the Sven with mid playing the Leshrac, and the last one is going to be Lucky on the Undying. And I don't think I've seen the maxed out Deafening Blast yet, but I'm definitely looking forward to it if the game lasts long enough.
Oh, I would love to, and just get a blink on the Invoker, and at that point you're pretty much initiating with a stronger Ravage even. It comes out very fast, although visually I would love to have it be an actual circle radiating out of the Invoker instead of just a bunch of individual Deafening Blasts. That is very scary.
When I read that in the patch notes, I was like, wow, that is gonna be massive, but of course you do have to take into account that to have all the free just balls for you, Quaspex and Exort maxed out, you need to be extremely highly leveled.
Yeah, at least level 22, but that's even if you forsake points and Invoke, which most Invokers don't. Usually you'll be maxing out your chosen path first and then going into Evoke rather than going in for skills in Quas or Wex, whatever the case may be.
That is certainly true, as we do have the reconnect on Shadowware. Hopefully it's gonna be fine as well. Just because you know the game has been paused for longer than anybody would like when it's just teams start throwing on the minimap.
Well, we are going to be unpaused, and it looks like we're going to get into this game. Maybe starting items are going to give us a little bit of a glimpse at the plan for both teams. Ogre Magi actually loading out with a truckload of regen. Usually I'd like to see an Orb of Venom start for the Ogre, but he's going to be playing more of a sacrificial support as he's opened up the Bane to pick up Boots first for himself as he goes up towards the top lane. Also Boots first on the Gyro. Yeah, this is pretty interesting. Scary Faces seem to be going for what appears to be dual lanes to open up.
Wow, another pause. I was actually hoping that we're gonna get things started, but starting games not that easy, but they are ready. So It will be fine as they are definitely heading towards the lane. They have wards of course to place down, maybe they're going to still leave a solo offlaner here. But I really think it's going to be an aggressive try lane after all, with Invoker being in the safe lane, Lesh mid, and then Sven, I think, still farming this tri lane.
Yeah, I guess that would be the suggested route. They're going to smoke up with these 4 heroes, and right now there's probably not a scarier mix of 4 heroes on the map. At the very least, for Next.kz, Invoker level 1 is a useless character. Absolutely does nothing. If they bump into the Queen of Pain, even Quista, if he goes for Blink level 1, might not survive if they can get the telekinesis off. David K is going to be over in the trees and hasn't found an angle just yet. The smoke is going to dissipate, and Quista should be able to walk away home free. Although he bumps into the Lishrak and Rubik, he keeps his distance. And, well, no First Blood is going to be here. Up towards top, Invoker is just going to block the safe lane to the best of his ability and concede the top bounty rune, as he probably rightfully should. Everybody else from Scary Faces, although maybe not as scary as Next.kz's heroes that were down towards bottom, is still a very potent killing combination in its own right. Should just be traded bounties across the board.
Yeah, I do think Next.kz made a slight mistake with having Undying run in first. If it's anybody other than the Queen of Pain, of course it might still work out for you. But since Queen of Pain can go for the immediate blink and get out, you really should have sent like the Rubik first, maybe telekinesis being that instant disable that it is. Then follow up with the Stormhammer and try to get the kill that way. But of course not grabbing that first blood or not being able to get it, not that big of a deal, because it's not like they had to waste any spells or any mana for it either. So it's just going to be a clean start for both sides.
Bounty rune is going to be picked up by both of our mid lane heroes, leaving Tilted to almost have his bottle just 1 CS away. Although Lishrak did go for the old talisman, it's going to be pretty much an even footing on this mid lane. Early, I'd give a slight advantage towards Lishrak, although not a ridiculous advantage. Storm Spirit should still be able to hold his own, although ganks could completely change that. For the time being, everybody else is sitting down towards bottom as Quista eats a decay, but that's going to be about it. Again, they're leading with the Undying, trying to get David in range. He does have a telekinesis, but without the Sven close by, no way that they can get that kill. Regardless, they're still zoning the Queen of Pain off of the creep wave and letting their Sven farm.
Yeah, Sven getting the farm is definitely going to be key for Next.kz here at the moment. Maybe an early Blink Dagger. They definitely need a more explosive kind of start to the game than they had last time around. Mid lane though, already just quite a bit of harass change, but since Storm Spirit was on the high ground and Leshrac just had to try to go on the enemy high ground, took a little bit of extra harassment that he maybe shouldn't have. And with that, Storm Spirit up to 6 last hits. But looking at the enemy safe laners, who do you think is going to have the better time, the Invoker or just the Queen of Pain?
At the moment, I'm tempted to say Invoker, as Ogre is rotated down towards bottom, but maybe a little bit of action breaking out. They're going to telekinesis up Quista. They slow down David K, trying to chase forward, but Queen of Pain with Blink available is not going to be stunned. The Stormhammer is fairly easy to destroy. I'm tempted to say Invoker will, since he is mostly left against a dual lane, and even so, all he really needs is experience. Although for the time being, that's kind of being denied away from him. Queen of Pain, although is going to survive, is always under the constant threat of being lifted up into a Stormhammer and decay. It's a pretty scary amount of damage. Honestly, I don't know what Eknar's going to accomplish by sitting down here.
Yeah, probably not a hell of a lot, just, I don't know, emotional support, something like that coming out by him. Ogre so cute and cuddly, who would want to attack his teammates, I don't know. But so far, mid lane, still Storm Spirit leading it, but only by 2 last hits, plus of course Lesher does have 2 denies, which Storm Spirit has 0 of. Top lane though, Charcopter level 3, level 2 Rocket Barrage, so if they get the Nightmare into Homing Missile, it can still be almost enough to kill the Invoker. But then again, being in the Wex build, it just means you're going to have the QQ walk, so Ghost Walk may be able to save his life anyway.
Let's see, Ghost Walk going to be dropped. No detection on the Bane. He's going to be able to walk home free. Just a little bit unfortunate. It's going to be bottom that the Queen of Pain dies. And pretty much just the expected combination. Telekinesis, Stormhammer, and a couple of decay stacks. Queen of Pain not with enough HP to survive through that onslaught.
So top lane, Invoker definitely harder to kill because you do have to get the detection. And early on as support, oh mid lane, Tilted drops low. That Lightning Storm, just being level 2 now, definitely starting to hurt quite a bit for that Storm Spirit. Although Storm Spirit, not even the squishiest of targets, 663 health. Not too shabby as bottom lane Quista. Has that 1 stack of decay on him, but he knows Sven just doesn't have enough mana for another stun.
Yeah, definitely. At the moment, Lishrak is very scary to the Storm Spirit. Until Storm gets level 6, he's always under pressure, and if a stray stun lands coming out from the ledge, that's pretty much an ensured kill. The amount of nuke damage you can pump out is ridiculous. 200 nuke on a 4-second cooldown, and then you also get the extra damage from Split Earth. It's pretty crazy. Lift down towards bottom into the Stormhammer. Quista gets blown up again. That's not even funny. I think that this Queen of Pain needs to learn her lesson. Going down to this bottom lane is just so scary.
That's just... It's painful to watch that, really, because there is really nothing you can do. If you have an Abaddon, maybe so, but... Of course, Ogre Magi, not the case. The best thing to hope for is that the Ogre Magi is in a position that when the telekinesis comes out, you can get the Fire Blast on the Sven before the Stormhammer flies, but... Ogre Magi would have to be extremely close, and by that point, they may just initiate on the Ogre instead of the Queen of Pain, for example, as well. So this lane, kind of a disaster. Queen of Pain, 7 last hits, maybe not that bad. It isn't all that much worse than the Invoker, but then again, she has also died twice.
Yeah, which is unfortunate. At the moment, with no boots on the Queen of Pain, if they get that telekinesis to land, there's absolutely nothing that they can do after the fact. Pasted Rubik running towards mid. Tilted is there, not level 6. This could be a pretty straightforward kill on the Storm if they don't scout out Rubik, but now David K can run into Quista, and that should be the good to go. Tilted is going to avoid a Split Earth, and that should be all she wrote. Haste has since dissipated onto the Rubik, but even without the Rubik in the bottom lane, Sven and the Undying are pretty comfortable. They've gotten 2 kills onto the Queen of Pain. There's not much Ogre can do to slow this down. Things are tense in a couple of lanes. They're going to go aggressive on mid. Lesh is going to be slowed down. Ball lining forward for a little bit more damage, but telekinesis now coming out from David K is going to buy him some space with the Fade Bolt. It will be enough. Mid is going to end up going down to the Queen of Pain, and her tick damage coming out from the dagger. Quista taking tower shots is going to get ripped apart by that Undying, and they're going to make this kill score 1-4.
And it was so close. Queen of Pain's blink literally just came off cooldown once she died. But in the end, still heavily favoring Next.kz. Rubik just being in the right position. They're getting the telekinesis, delaying the death of the Leshrac. But top lane, we get the Nightmare. It's not gonna last long enough though for just Ramses to even start that homing missile. Kind of a waste of mana in that situation. So this top lane not working out as intended, and in all honesty, maybe they should have left the Ogre top lane and have the Bane go bottom.
Yeah, I haven't really seen or felt any impact of Eknar yet. He is sitting on level 4, and the Ogre is doing pretty good for himself, but there's no major stacks made up for the Storm Spirit to farm, and really not much else has been accomplished by the Ogre sitting down towards bottom. But getting an early level 6 on the Ogre can be very important, although I'm tempted to agree with you. Up towards top, Leshrac and Undying have partnered up, at least for the time being, with an Invis Rune and Leshrac. Maybe they can set up a kill even on Tilted, although that's very, very difficult. The Invis Rune on Lesh probably just going to be used defensively here, if he needs it.
Yeah, well, with one extra hero assisting Leshrac, I think he should be able to get the kill, because he did get tilted rather low and forced out quite a bit of mana through that ball lightning usage from the Storm Spirit. So Leshrac definitely having a nice time. Top lane, another Nightmare though. This time around, homing missile will come out, but I'm not too sure if it's gonna land. And also Sven suddenly arrives, gets the Stormhammer, but they do have the dust this time around. I don't think, yeah, they're still gonna get the kill tornado. Delays it a little bit, but that's one easy kill. Cold Snap into Shadow Wave, and should be a secondary kill for them as well.
Yeah, another Stormhammer is cooling down if they even need it. Leshrac comes in from the sidelines and they jam it home with the poor boss's Storm Bolt. They'll end up getting that one through. And really, this game could not have started out much better for Next.kz. A 6-1 kill score, although CS is pretty much dead even. They also have a slight advantage in that respect if you compare the Invoker to the Queen of Pain. Next.kz are going to open things up with about a 2k gold and 2k experience lead in their favor, which is pretty much where they want to be with these heroes. They thrive getting early kills, and once they get that early advantage, they're so much scarier. Potential gank brewing onto mid.
Well, it's definitely not the easiest gank. Of course, depends on what side wants to go for it, because both sides at the moment, in theory, have enough heroes close by to go for at least one kill there, but Next.kz, you know, they have the numbers advantage, they have the Undying coming in as well. Even though Soul Rip is only level 1, its damage or healing may just be enough to kill or just keep somebody alive. And also, Tilted, being level 7, doesn't have a point into Electric Vortex, so just really jumping and initiating is not that easy for him yet.
Couchor is going to stack up some Ancients for himself and sit on this 8-minute rune. Picks that up, it's going to be a bounty rune for him as they get Nightmare over onto Lesh with the missile to follow up. Call down, Rocket Barrage, the damage is immense onto the Leshrac, and they'll bring him down. Tombstone down on the deck as Ramsey 666 and Shadowy are going to get slowed down by that a little bit. Tilted chases forward for Lucky with the Blinking from Questa. They're going to be able to bring down the Undying. And now the TP response coming out from Next.kz, although this might be a little over-ambitious. Undying Tombstone going to be brought down as Scary Faces come away with a big victory.
Yeah, that was huge. Of course, Leshrac he didn't expect that gank to come in at all. Also, you could see Invoker trying to come in to maybe help, but just a little bit too late to the party and couldn't really just backstab at them at all. Otherwise, if Next.kz somehow had managed to just keep Scaryface's attention towards the mid lane a little bit longer, just a tornado EMP coming in from behind could have been rather disastrous as well and helping out Next.kz, but even with that Vex being 4 points into it so far, just not fast enough quite yet on his feet.
I didn't notice it before that fight, but take a look at Quista's build. He's actually completely maxed out the Shadow Strike.
Wow, well that's max kiting on the Sven, I guess.
Yeah, it's very annoying for the Sven to deal with. It is going to sacrifice the burst damage potential we kind of talked about in the draft to kill off the Rubik and the Lesh. So I'm not sure if I like it. Usually I think 2 points in Shadow Strike does it, but the 4-second cooldown is also pretty cool. You're able to get that off on pretty much everybody inside the fight. Next.kz's heroes are pretty allergic to being kited around. Lesh, even though he's pretty innately fast, once he's slowed and CC'd down, it gets really hard for him. It's going to take a little bit more time for Queen of Pain to fully get online, but I can understand the mentality behind it, and I think it's a pretty good game for it.
It's definitely not too bad, just... I think you pointed out as well, Scream of Pain doesn't really want to blink next to Next.kz anyway at the moment to go for the Scream of Pain. So it might work out, but they are smoked at the moment, Scary Faces. They're gonna blink forward, get that slow onto David K. With the Fire Blast to follow. It's gonna be an easy kill, or is it? There's the Tornado EMP landing onto 3 heroes. No Fire Blast, but with the cooldown I think it's enough to get the kill. Do they have Dust? Indeed they do. Tilted even comes in. They take a lot of damage considering how fast they should have gotten those kills, but once again 2 kills and they just back out.
They are leaving the Sven to farm away up towards the top lane. That might be a little bit problematic for them. Sven's going to be working into an armlet as his first major item. But yeah, the SFZ have come back after a pretty subpar, very early game. Where Next.kz got a lot of momentum under the belt. Now have pretty much tied things up almost directly. The Sven, although armlet's a great item on him, I think Blink Dagger is almost mandatory. With the amount of mobility that Scary Faces have, I think he's just going to be constantly kited if he goes for this armlet first. He's going to need some sort of mobility next.
So what kind of a mobility item would you suggest him to go for? Is he gonna go for like an SNY or really just pick up the straight up Blink?
I think Blink into BKB would be nice to get after the armlet for the Sven this game. SNY has its merits and it's kind of nice to be moving a little bit faster, but anything short of getting right up into the face of Scary Faces isn't going to cut it. And especially with this maxed out Shadow Strike, he's going to be slowed so very much in these fights.
So we'll see what he's gonna go for, because he's definitely gonna start building towards that next item now that he has the armlet finished. And with the armlet, the farming is gonna be even faster with 3 points already into the Greater Cleave for him. And he's already rather far away from the Gyrocopter in net worth, for example. Gyro just hasn't had the greatest of games. Definitely hasn't been too bad either, like 1-1 and 3 in the KDA is pretty solid. But just Sven 2-0 and 2 a little bit better. Last hits he has... how many more? Like 15 more than the Gyrocopter, give or take.
Even so, I think the Gyrocopter can contribute a little bit more inside the fights than the Sven, even with a farm disadvantage. Just because he's able to throw at his kid from a lot longer range. And the cooldown, as we saw, does a ridiculous amount of damage. Tornado down towards bottom is going to miss. As his Split Earth is a Storm Spirit zips in. He doesn't get the bounty rune, ends up just wasting a little bit of his mana, but he does survive just the same. The smoke up coming out from Next.kz, or rather just an Invis rune on top for boss looking towards top. This rotation is going to be spotted out by a Dire Observer Ward if Undying and Rubik come forward, but they get the Storm Hammer point blank range right into the Bane. They'll steal up Brain Sap, although Nightmare is dropped. It's going to be toggled off, and very easy kill for Next.kz there. Set up by the Invis on this one.
Yeah, the Brain Sap is also a pretty nice ability to steal for the Rubik chest. First of all, it can give you extra survivability, plus its pure damage is a pretty nice nuke there. So another Telekinesis onto Queen of Pain plus the Storm Hammer to follow, it's gonna be a really easy kill there. But Quista does make it out, of course. Blink is only level 1 still, although Queen of Pain is level 8. But so far they really haven't been using the Queen of Pain to just jump around the map and try to look for kills anyway. So I suppose it's fine that way. Tilted in the meantime, 1100 gold in the bank, has the Soul Ring. So for the Storm Spirit, do you still try to go for the Orchid, or do you just build straight out Bloodstone, for example?
I think it's up to personal choice. I have a feeling he's going to go Bloodstone. I wouldn't be opposed to going for the straight up Orchid, but just the extra farming speed that Bloodstone offers, and just being a general good item for Storm Spirit, I think that's going to be his path.
So bottom lane, we do see Shadow Egg. Has just hit level 6, has the Fiend's Grip, so you would think that kills are rather easy to get. Does he? Oh, doesn't carry detection though. So if the Invoker is really fast, may be able to just Ghost Walk away, although he's trying to outrun Shadow and is going to be able to do so as well with having those phase boots activated. So no first kill yet, with that Fiend's Creep at least. But they are farming up. Yes, Sven might be farming a little bit faster, but Scary Faces, do they have any items that they are waiting for that suddenly dramatically like increase their fighting potential?
Orchid on Queen of Pain would be that item, but it's going to be a long time in coming, since she has been slowed down quite a bit in her farming speed. And, well, Storm Spirit hasn't shown his hand, but I don't think he's going to go for the Orchid, especially since Queen of Pain does have that, so not really. Yasha on Gyrocopter is going to be incoming, but there's no big jump. There's no, like, Blink Dagger carriers, although I'm sure Bane and Ogre would love to get their hands onto that. It's not going to be until quite some time afterwards. Somewhat of a mobility item up next for Sven, but I think more than anything, this is just to get Topor absolutely stacked when it comes to his farm. He just mopped up a triple stack of Ancients, if I'm not mistaken, and, well, that's going to propel his net worth to upwards of 7,500, which is pretty significant. Call down towards bottom and clean up to creep wave as Gyrocopter is going to go towards mid as Fight's brewing top. They'll pull back the Queen of Pain. She's able to blink out to safety, however, and, well, Rajai's to no immediate threat. Although there's a lot of posturing in that lane, nothing's actually going to happen.
So Gyrocopter trying to also farm up a triple stack of Ancients, but even if he gets all of those farmed, he's still not going to be anywhere close to the Sven's farm. And Sven, this farmed early on, it's just going to be in general really hard to even bring him down, because Scary Faces, they may have a reasonable amount of magic damage, but Sven, the just raw health that he has, he should be able to survive that, and then he's just going to have a lot of armor with the Warcry, with the armlet being there for him. Then again, it will all depend on how much burst is used during the time he has Mask of Madness activated.
Alrighty then. We'll just have to wait and see when the next set of aggression is going to happen. At the moment, both teams seem to be pretty content just farming it up. Lishrak looks to be going towards a Bloodstone, or at the very least a Soul Booster item as his next course of action. What are the chances we see an Aghanim Scepter here for mid, however? He's sitting on that point booster. We don't really know what he's going for yet.
I mean, it can come out, I suppose, but I think Blaststone is probably the better choice, and maybe then go into the Aghanims. Blaststone just gives you all the mana you need as a Leshrac to just keep on spamming out that Lightning Storm, like you already pointed out earlier on in the game. It being on a 4-second cooldown, as well as having, well, 7 targets. It just does so much AoE damage. It's really getting to like Zeus levels of farm, as in the meantime, Invoker plus Sven just farming up Roshan. Probably a
Top
Alacrity
lane.
was used.
Lucky is not going to be so lucky. Nightmare is going to be dropped onto the Rubik, but it's taken off by the tick damage from the Queen of Pain. They won't be able to get that deny. Rajai gets that, and now they're going to pull back Aknar. This is going to be 1-for-1 trade at the very least. They'll be able to zap down the Queen of Pain as well over on the sidelines. Even though Next.kz loser and dying to begin that, Scary Faces have to commit pretty hard and end up getting punished.
That was definitely a misplay coming out there, and also I thought really Krista already made it out there, but wanted to come back in, just peek a little bit. Got the blink stolen as well now, so Rubik gets a little bit of extra mobility, and with that mobility and the invis on Lishrak, they can maybe even kill Tilted if they just play their cards correctly here.
Zip into the Swarm Spirit, they're going to get a Fiend's Grip on mid. Mid is going to end up running away, and the Lishrak survives with the strength offered to him by the Wand, as well as the Treads and Point Booster. Going to get Lightning Storm onto all of them. Tornado going to fly through, only catches the Ogre, now gripped in return by the Rubik, is going to end up being brought down in a heartbeat. Tilted not looking too healthy when it comes to mana. They're going to be forced to pull back, although they commit the Tombstone down on the ground as Sven comes in from the sidelines like a champ. Shadow is going to be smacked down as they look towards the sidelines, zip away from the Storm Spirit. He's home free, blink out by the Queen of Pain. They are able to survive with these two very mobile heroes, but the bottom line remains the Next.kz get 2 free kills and a tower.
Things are really looking good for them in game 2, and if they can just continue with this kind of aggression, also just getting objectives this time, because last game, for example, they only got 1 tier 1 during the entirety of the game, and there's the blink stun onto Quista, but Queen of Pain this time can get the blink out. David K just not close enough at that point, doesn't have his own blink or force staff yet, but Undying finishes up his mech, so it's gonna be extra survivability for the team, of course, and well, this game, Next.kz definitely looking so much more solid than in game number 1.
For sure. At the moment, they're just getting a lot out of this map. They're draining a lot of resources into the Sven. He's going to put that in towards the Blink Dagger. So eventually, he does get that super mobile Sven on the line, and this is scary. Ooh.
David K just came in. Well, they had vision of the Queen of Pain, but that was really just running close enough for a Fate Bolt, and that was the kill. That's it.
Yeah, she was farming very aggressively. Good pickup for Next.kz, although avoidable. They should know that this ward is now dropped down. Not the most conventional one. Up towards top, they're going to catch out the Sven. He's slowed down. Homing missile up, excuse me. But TP support is going to repel them. The call down on the ground is going to slow down Sven quite a bit. He does have an armlet toggle and a blink in 3 seconds if he wants to initiate. There's your armlet toggle. There's your blink in. There's your stun onto Shadowy. The turnaround damage is more than enough to kill off the Aegis coming out from the Sven, but he does have that second life at the ready. Tornado is going to miss. Doesn't catch out Shadowy. He's going to buy himself more than enough space, although Undying wants to continue the chase. In the end, it's just Next.kz throwing away their second life on the Sven.
Yeah, that was so damn aggressive. You have your Mask of Madness activated. You just run through the cooldown. Maybe they wanted it a little bit too bad, but then again, cooldown is now used, but it's a rather short cooldown anyway. If they had also used like a Fiend script for it, would be a little bit better for Next.kz to go and push in. Also, the Flesh Golem just wore off now on the Undying, so if Scary Faces want, they may be able to even defend, but then again, Sven, with the God Strength, maybe not the thing you want to fight into.
Yeah, with the Armlet extra strength activated, that's an extra, I don't know, ridiculous amount of damage on this Sven. Don't really have words for it, but he's hitting for upwards of 400 a smack with Mask of Madness attack speed. Inside mid lane, they're going to get a lift onto the Gyrocopter with Cold Snap activated. Ramses is going to be burst down. Gyro getting caught out alone after going for that tier 1 tower mid.
Yeah, and with this, another ultimate stolen by the Rubik as well, gets the cooldown for himself. And with this Orchid finished on the Invoker, and this game, I just don't see Scary Faces doing that much because they are falling behind in farm. Queen of Pain will be kind of a null factor, I think, although mid, he just got stunned, but nothing else will happen, just ball lighting away from the Storm Spirit, who also doesn't have that great of an amount of farm. Does have a haste room bottled up, but that only gets you so far.
Yeah, at the moment, Quista, although he's managed to find level 11 at a reasonable time for a solo lane Queen of Pain, or effectively a solo lane Queen of Pain. Ogre wasn't really there for the most part. He just hasn't done anything with it. He's 2-5-2. Hasn't really been involved in any exchanges. I don't think that's any of his fault. Quista just hasn't found any good openings. Next.kz are fairly tough nut to crack. Sven's going to be inside the enemy woods, farming up a storm, and taking away a lot of income from Scary Faces. This is getting pretty precarious for them. Their Gyrocopter is the only one that's consistently able to keep up with the net worth of the counterparts on the enemy side, and I think most scary is that Rubik is actually getting a lot. 5-1 and 7. He has a Blink Dagger already up.
Yeah, now slowly ball lighting as well, I think, and is he gonna go for a kill on Tilted? No, with the haste rune, I think Storm Spirit is gonna make it out, but if your Rubik by himself can just make your Storm Spirit scared, that's kind of a showing how this game is going. Although then again, no, never mind, ball lighting, but David K, he's so low on mana, haste rune still lasting for a little while. But Storm Spirit not gonna keep on diving, didn't really have proper vision of Next.kz. One could have easily TP in and help out the Rubik there, but Tilted gonna back out. So close to finishing his blast on as well, so doesn't really want to lose any unnecessary gold here. But if you're Next.kz, do you wait for next Roshan or do you try to just pressure another tier 2?
I honestly don't think they need to wait. At the moment, they have a mech on their Undying, they have a fresh BKB on their Sven, and pretty much every hero on their team has exactly what they want, especially now that Bloodstone's up for Leshrac. His first major item is online, although it took him a lot longer than maybe he'd like to. It's still completely reasonable. Next.kz, compared at face value to Scary Faces, are just better at fighting at the moment. The Bane has no way to initiate fights. He's offering Brain Sap and Fiend Script, which is nice and all. The Ogre is pretty much just at face value too, which, don't get me wrong, I love Ogre as a hero, but it just doesn't really compare to like a Blink Lift coming out from the Rubik and everybody having something to contribute.
So Scary Face is definitely a tough road ahead of them for this game, especially since Next.kz, they have already chosen to just go in and push with all 5 of them being present. Both teams do have Blast Downs now as well, but Leshrac also has a regen rune, so may run out of mana, but gonna get that mana back fast enough. Scary Faces though, they're trying to go for a trade, just try to pressure 2 tier 2s, but their damage output, physical, isn't all that high at this point in the game.
Trading towers against a Mask of Madness Sven and a Leshrac with 3 points up in the Edict just doesn't really seem to be possible. They're going to be pressuring high ground. At the moment, Scary Faces need to do something. They have, I believe, 2 points up in the Enfeeble. It's going to be placed onto the Sven. That's nice and all, but by no means does that stop his damage output. Tier 3 tower is going to be dropped. Low is a blinking coming out from Topper. He pops the BKB and goes hard on the Gyrocopter. BKB is going to be popped in turn as the fight breaks on the backline. It's a nice Sonic Wave from Quista, but with the stun landing onto 2, they'll be able to turn that around on the Storm Spirit and the Queen of Pain. Queen of Pain has buyback. Storm Spirit does not. Queen of Pain's going to spend that as Next.kz commit further for the Melee Barracks. They're going to be able to get this unless something miraculous happens. A 2x multicast is good, but not good enough. Stormhammer thrown into Shadowy. Shadowy going to be brought down, and now Agnar dropping his mid is going to town on the backlines. This Shrek cannot be touched. They lose their Invoker, do a little bit of AoE damage, and that's nice. And all long zip in from the Storm Spirit. Can he actually find a target? Lucky's dropped low, the decay is going to miss, and he does kill off that Undying. But after all is said and done, Next.kz got what they came for.
Yeah, Rax down, a couple of kills as well. Were there any buyback? Yes. Quista having to buy back the Bane there as well. So that is a huge blow to Scary Faces there. Because Queen of Pain, I mean, she was so far from the Orchid anyway, now it's even farther still. And since you already had that one Oblivion Staff, you kind of have to finish that item. I guess you could try to just turn things around and go towards that Refresher Orb instead, but you probably won't even have the mana to sustain it. With
Refresher doesn't use Oblivion Staff anymore.
Yeah, oh, right. Man.
Yeah, at the moment, I don't think anything else Queen of Pain goes for would really help, in all honesty. If she goes back for a BKB or for an Aghanim's, it's just going to be too long.
Goddamn Refresher Orb. I totally forgot about that one, but... Well... You are kind of forced now then into a completely... like super late Orchid, which is gonna come like, what, 30 minutes in or something? What's it gonna do? Probably nothing.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, BKB is going to be coming out from the Invoker. Maybe it's not. I guess there's the potential for an Aghanim Scepter up for the Invoker. Although I think that item's kind of a little bit outdated with the addition of Octarine Core, kind of doing the same thing, but better. Although it is a lot more expensive. Regardless, everybody from Next.kz has their core items up and has abilities to contribute. And especially the Queen of Pain does not. 2, 6, and 4, there just hasn't been any openings. In fact, that last fight went about as good as you can ask for. She got her Sonic Wave off onto 3. That's pretty damn good. They're going to get an Aegis the Immortal for Next.kz, and this next push is going to be even scarier. There's a crit onto Sven. This is very quickly becoming absurd damage for the Next.kz side, and Scary Faces aren't well equipped to deal with it. Gyrocopter is struggling to stay on the same page. His damage output is nowhere close.
Yeah, things are really looking grim at the moment for them. I really expect them to just straight out lose the second set of racks and not be able to do much of anything else. Just because even if they get to jump somebody without like Sven being able to activate PKB for example, there's still the Undying who can Glimmer Cape the Sven and be fine. As Tornado doesn't really hit anything important, or at least not in combination with the EMP, but oh, there's the jump in, they get Ramses! Can they kill him as well? Nice defensive Nightmare, but the Split Earth just cancels the Nightmare and well, Gyro doesn't have buyback.
Yeah, and I think Next.kz get a fresh set of racks here. There's not anything that Scary Faces can do to defend. Tilted, oh my goodness, will try his best to defend the range barracks in bottom lane, but now Orchided up by the Invoker. Can he get this kill solo? It looks like the answer to that is no, though Deafening Blast comes in. There's your Storm Hammer and a little bit of help, and well, actually a lot of help coming up from the Sven as he crits for almost 900 damage. Stun over into Shadowy, and GG called out by Tilted. This second game coming up for Next.kz was pretty much night and day. It worked wonderfully for them, and I think for good reason. Leshrac and Undying were banned out in the first one. They played it well.
Yeah, it was also the fact that the first game could have gone the exact same way if they just had a slightly better start, but this time around they just had the better lanes, or the lane matchups at least, and made it work for them. So really well done, Next.kz, taking this to a game 3, and it's nice that the tournament is getting such a start. Hopefully we're not gonna be falling behind in schedule because of those delays that we've had, but at least it was a fast game. So we're gonna head into game number 3, guys, the deciding one, and even if you lose, you're still not out because you have, well, you can lose once and you have to win 2 sets pretty much to advance to the playoffs. But in any case, game 3 coming up in just a couple of minutes.